stories. I am your host, Haley Marie, and I am here with David Kubis, David Caddy, and Claudia Cano, bringing you the latest updates on El Lugar.
So what was going on at El Lugar during the 2 weeks? What we did now, we negotiated the contracts with the builders. Infrastructure was very different than normal construction companies do. You remember we didn't hire a general contractor. We didn't do normal. We just made a shout out to locals to come over and work for us. Paid them directly, gave them contracts, and it brilliantly worked out. That was beautiful, and they're all happy. So we were looking at, how do we do this with the builders who actually built the houses, the walls, the pylons and all that stuff. And of course, you need a contract with them, and they need to know what they built because they have to kind of install, they have to bring their staff, they have to cook for them. So there's nothing at El Lugar, and suddenly we will have like 80 workers there. So they need toilets, they need a kitchen, they need to sleep somewhere. Actually, you have to build a little village to enable construction. This is the part that many people just don't consider because normally, you go to work, everybody lives like, in walking distance or traveling distance. They take the car to get to work, not at El Lugar. So this was the challenge. But as always, El Lugar did its magic. And we have the contract ready for signing in a way that still allows us to follow the energy, what El Lugar requires, and what is called a walkaway clause in this reality. So what we did is we defined all the work that needs to be done, but we have the right to take it out of the contract of the big construction company and actually give that to the locals. For example, the wooden doors or the windows or painting the walls inside. Of course, we have an estimate. It is in the contract now, but we want to see what El Lugar requires. So we didn't want to commit to everything normal people do. And for the construction companies, this was big change because they said, well, how shall we calculate? How should we actually come up with the price if you can send us away at any time? And then we said, well, will we send you away if it all works, if you do a great job? And then they said, well, actually, no, but we don't have a guarantee. And we said, yes, you do. And just do your job. So very, very unique ways of negotiating contracts. And I have to say, the team we have in Costa Rica, Olman and Silvia, our lawyers, and David Caddy, who actually said, no, that's the way it is. We're not changing that. That's what El Lugar requires. So he was being the El Lugar ambassador in these negotiations, and the energy he was being was, it's not happening. It's not happening other than El Lugar requires it. And so it was. So, David, can you tell us what magic you did and how you created that miracle that I, as an international lawyer, have never seen anywhere in any project in the last 15 years. So how did you do that?
Well, I have the architect come he comes twice a week, and we were talking. I keep asking him, well, what about the contracts? And he said, oh, well, they're just about ready. And I said, well, is there a clause in there that says I can pull stuff out or change? So I can pull stuff out of the contract and it comes off the price. It needn't come off his profit, but off his price. So that we can put in and pull out. Normally it always works the other way. It's a change order. We're adding something, but I want it the opposite way too. So that if I like you said, find somebody locally that I want to employ in instead of him, that I can do that. And basically, for me, this whole project is totally flexible. It can't be absolutely defined. It's like all the designs and everything that have been done in the past, it's like they force what we as in this reality think should be on the land, instead of being able to change it as the land says. The example just this morning of changing a house, because when we laid it out, this doesn't work because we laid the roads where they needed to be. And so we always need to have flexibility and not this imposing our will upon it. So basically you have to be willing to walk. So I just said to the architect, well, has to be in the contract. Otherwise we'll find someone else. And the contract we have is very, very flexible. And so I feel like we can make it work. It feels like we're going to be in more of a team than contractor client, fighting. It's more, how can we get this done in the most pragmatic way, where everybody wins. The work is there, it needs to be created, and it's just a matter of how do we do that together, and they make money too. Yes, the business is about making money. I'm not opposed to that. I just need flexibility and not the rigidity of obviously what other people. And it's also very interesting for me because that's how I've always done things in my life. And yet I have this preconceived idea that everything needs to be defined. So constantly within me, I always fight about the definition. Well, this should all be defined. And yet I always have to let go. Like I contacted you, David, yesterday, and I was ready to contact you and ask you because I was stuck, and then it just changed. It was like the more I'm willing to be with it and not fight it, allow it to take its own time, it creates way more. So
thank you for that, David. And you said something like, you just mentioned that. You said we're taking it off the contract, but not off your profit. You just mentioned that if that was the most normal thing for you. Can you actually explain what that means? Because taking a part out of the contract means we just don't pay for that anymore. And you said,
right, but
we're not taking it off the profit. Can you explain how you magically created that?
Well, I don't know how well, for me, it's like they're in business to make profit, and they have to distribute that throughout all their different phases of it. So instead of being totally fixed, why can't we take out, okay, well, this is how much it actually costs, and this is the profit margin on top of it. I just see it's not about taking away. It's like, how can we create more together, working together? So, and it comes down to money for a contractor. So to me, it's like, if you don't threaten the profit margin for them, then you should be able to be flexible. I don't know, it just seems logical to me that, yes, in the end, it might cost physically, in this reality, it might cost more in the short run, but in the long term, what you create in the local environment is way more. And how do we, after this virus, it's like, how do we diversify and support people, smaller companies, smaller people, individuals, so that they can thrive. So that's why I wanted that clause there.
And that clause is actually, for me, something that in Access Consciousness we call gifting and receiving, because we are not taking away anything. We're just requesting something that would work for us, that might work for us, because we don't know yet. So it's not threatening, it's not giving and taking, it's gifting and receiving. What I learned, what Ullman, our lawyer who actually drafted the contract, said is, telling someone, hey, we don't take away the profit margin. We just want to be able to give the work to someone else, not because you're doing a wrong job, not because you're not right, just because it might create more, giving that job to local families rather than a big company from San Jose, explaining that and at the same time not taking the profit away, being willing to pay for it. And this was something they've never seen before. There was no standard clause they used for this. It just didn't exist. So it was even beautiful for Ullman, our lawyer, to create that and see, wow. Because the minute he said that, there was no resistance from the company anymore. Because they said, okay, now I can do a financial planning. Now I know they're not taking. They truly want to create something that works. So I think with that clause, we created a lot of trust with our contractors. And I think we also instilled some of this being different in their universe. They might not know how to deal with it yet. But I think the first step is set. And this is what I...
Yeah, and how much is that going to create something different in the future of construction and contracts? What are we instilling now to create something different?
Yeah, because now this construction company knows, well, if they want to walk away, I could actually say, you know what, leave me the profit margin, and then you can walk away. And maybe, and I might need my hopes and dreams bars run, but maybe we are creating something that creates a different future in contracting and negotiating and fighting over prices. Maybe there is co-creating something greater where everybody walks away as a winner. I love it. Thank you so much, David, for that.
Maybe it's not going to look like we think it's going to look, but maybe it is already creating a different future for contracting and doing contracts and construction and everything.
So for me, it was like I needed that part of it actually in a contract, because because my experience of doing the castle was that everybody goes by this contract. This is the Bible. This is the ultimate. And so for me, if that's the way you want to play the game, we need it in the contract. I mean, so that everybody benefits from it, but it's written in the contract. It's not, I would prefer to do it as a gentleman's agreement, but that doesn't work in Costa Rica. In fact, I guess it doesn't work in...
Well, I don't think it works anywhere. Just between gentlemen.
And also this reality is so used to having contracts, demanding a gentleman's agreement with all this craziness. That's something people couldn't receive it. And this is where we say being the change out there sometimes requires to do that kind of in micro steps. So we are doing something crazy, but at least we have it in the contract. So we're not kind of over-changing them, out-creating them. We drip feed them as much as they can receive.
Yeah. Well, how does it get any better?
And this was just the first step. This was just the first big change that we now, no, it was actually the second one, because doing the infrastructure the way we did, I think that people are really stunned that it's actually it's there now. They can see it, and we didn't fail. So all of these big companies that now come and spy us out, well, welcome to our reality, and what else is possible now?
But I think that's a key part, what you just said, David, that we didn't fail, but we never had the point of view that we could fail. It was like we're willing to not be correct at it. We're willing to change things, but we never think that we were going to fail or succeed. It was just like, okay, we're willing to change anything if it doesn't really work. So I guess that's really key in all of this, that we're not there like setting up things to succeed or to fail, just to be willing to change it accordingly to whatever is required and what can be greater than we have thought that it will be.
Yes, knowing what you want to create and trusting that it will work out and not going into doubt. I think this is what we did, and it works. It just works. And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
We just do on site whatever's required to get the job done. So it's a very pragmatic view, and it's constantly changing. Like at the moment, we're dealing with drainage, but rather than go, oh, this is what we're going to do and force it, we look at how the water runs, and then we work from there. And then we put in rough stuff right now to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we'll just change it. So it's the flexibility of, it's just the flexibility. To me, that's what's required in the whole process. And that's what that clause gives us in the contract. And it gives us, with the people we're using now, when you pay people by the hour, everybody gets upset, but it gives you total freedom in what's required on the land, instead of going, well, this is what we have to do. So for me, I'm very grateful that we can do it this way. And it allows me total flexibility to chop and change where people are and not have them, oh, you have to do this no matter what. You know, if it rains too much, you can't do certain things. You have to do other things. And it gives us total flexibility. So
thank you, David.
Flexibility.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We look forward to bringing you the next podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.